In January and February 1945, British forces sank Japanese vessels near Ramree Island off the coast of Burma, now Myanmar. Approximately 1,000 Japanese soldiers retreated into the mangrove swamps of the island. When British soldiers returned at dawn, accounts from the time described finding far fewer survivors, perhaps 400 or fewer. The accounts attributed many deaths to saltwater crocodiles, which were documented to inhabit the mangroves of Ramree Island in large numbers. Historians debate the precise number of crocodile victims that night. What is not debated is that the saltwater crocodile was there, and that it has been documented since then, again and again, as one of the most dangerous animals in Asia. On the other side of the planet, the Nile crocodile has been killing humans for so long that ancient Egyptians built a religion around it. The god Sobek, part man, part crocodile, was simultaneously feared and worshipped along the Nile for thousands of years. Today, the Croc Attack database records approximately 287 documented crocodile deaths per year globally, with Nile and saltwater crocodiles responsible for the overwhelming majority. Researchers believe this figure significantly underestimates actual deaths in remote areas. 2 species, 2 continents, 200 million years of essentially unchanged predatory design. Today, WildForge explores what separates the Nile crocodile from the saltwater crocodile and why that difference matters. The most common question people ask about these 2 crocodiles is simple. Which one is bigger? The answer is more complicated than most people expect, and the numbers are more staggering than most people realize. The saltwater crocodile, Crocodylus porosus, is on average the larger species and holds the undisputed title of largest living reptile on Earth. Adult males typically measure 4.3 to 5.2 meters and weigh 400 to 1,000 kilograms. The largest verified individual on record was Lolong, a male captured in Bunawan, Philippines in 2011, who measured 6.17 meters and weighed 1,075 kilograms. Lolong was officially measured by Guinness World Records. He died in captivity in February 2013. Unverified reports claim individuals reaching 7 meters and beyond, but these lack the scientific documentation to be confirmed. Nile crocodile, Crocodylus niloticus, is typically smaller on average than the saltwater crocodile, but only marginally so, and the comparison becomes complicated at the extremes. Adult male Nile crocodiles typically reach 3.5 to 5 meters and weigh 225 to 750 kilograms. The largest reliably verified Nile crocodile on record, shot near Mwanza, Tanzania in the early 20th century, measured 6.45 meters and weighed approximately 1,090 kilograms. This individual was slightly longer than Lolong and heavier. When measured at equal lengths, Nile crocodiles tend to be bulkier and heavier. The Nile crocodile's body is more robustly built than the saltwater crocodiles at equivalent length. So, the saltwater crocodile is larger on average and holds the record in captivity. The Nile crocodile holds the record in the wild. Neither victory is decisive. Both animals are enormous in ways that defy easy comprehension until you stand next to one. The bite force question is clearer. The saltwater crocodile has the strongest bite force ever recorded for any living animal, 3,700 pounds per square inch. The Nile crocodile's bite reaches 3,000 pounds per square inch, extraordinary by any standard, but measurably less. Human bone fractures at approximately 150 pounds per square inch. Both species share the fundamental crocodilian body plan: armored back, laterally flattened tail, eyes and nostrils positioned on top of the skull, and the same basic ambush predator proportions that have worked without significant modification since before the dinosaurs walked on land. but experienced observers can distinguish them reliably. The saltwater crocodile snout is broader and more rounded at the tip, proportionally wider relative to its length than the Nile crocodile snout. The Nile crocodile has a proportionally narrower, more pointed snout that reflects the slightly different prey profile it hunts. These snout differences are most apparent when comparing photographs of both species head-on. The skewed pattern, the arrangement of the bony armored plates behind the head, differs reliably between the two species. The saltwater crocodile has fewer and more irregularly arranged neck scutes, while the Nile crocodile has a more regular and symmetrical neck scute arrangement. Crocodile researchers use this feature routinely in the field. Coloration provides another clue. Saltwater crocodiles tend toward pale yellow to gray-brown with irregular darker blotching. Nile crocodiles are typically darker olive-brown to dark gray with more uniformly colored dorsal surfaces. Both species have the pale yellow undersides characteristic of crocodilians. Perhaps most reliably, geography. If you see a large crocodile in sub-Saharan Africa, it is a Nile crocodile. If you see one in Australia, Southeast Asia, or coastal South Asia, it is a saltwater crocodile. They share no wild habitat. The habitats these two species have conquered tell the story of two different evolutionary strategies that arrived at the same destination, apex aquatic predator, by different routes. The Nile crocodile is the undisputed master of Africa's freshwater systems. It inhabits the Nile, the Congo, the Zambezi, the Limpopo, Lake Victoria, Lake Tanganyika, and dozens of other major waterways across 26 African countries. It is found from sea level to high altitude lakes, from clear river channels to muddy swamps, from the massive delta systems of the continent's coast to landlocked lakes in the interior. A separate, isolated population established itself on Madagascar. The Nile crocodile has lived alongside the human lineage since before Homo sapiens existed. Our ancestors encountered this animal millions of years ago, and it has been shaping human behavior near African water ever since. The saltwater crocodile is the supreme aquatic generalist of the reptile world. It is the only crocodilian species that genuinely inhabits the open ocean, not just tolerates saltwater estuaries, but actively travels in the open sea, crossing hundreds of miles of open water between island groups using ocean currents to navigate. This ocean-going capability explains its extraordinary geographic range from the east coast of India across Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia, the Philippines, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, and the Solomon Islands, to the northern coast of Australia. Individual saltwater crocodiles have been tracked traveling over 900 miles from their home territory through open ocean. No other crocodilian comes close to this geographic reach. This difference matters in a practical way. The saltwater crocodile can appear in places where no one expects a crocodile to be, on remote beaches, in coastal fishing areas, at river mouths, far from large crocodile populations. The Nile crocodile, confined to continental freshwater systems, is dangerous in predictable places. The saltwater crocodile can be dangerous anywhere along thousands of miles of Indo-Pacific coastline. Both the Nile crocodile and the saltwater crocodile are ambush predators, but their ambush techniques and their prey reflect the different ecosystems they have mastered. The crocodilian ambush is one of the most patient predatory strategies in the animal kingdom. A crocodile may spend hours, sometimes the better part of a day, motionless at the water's edge or partially submerged, with only its eyes and nostrils above the waterline, monitoring the bank for prey. The crocodile's body temperature, regulated by the environment rather than by internal metabolism, requires almost no energy to maintain in water. The crocodile can wait at essentially zero caloric cost, When prey comes within range, typically within a few body lengths of the water's edge, the strike is explosive, covering that distance in a fraction of a second. The Nile crocodile's position at Africa's major river crossings gives it access to some of the largest seasonal aggregations of large mammals on Earth. During the Great Migration in the Serengeti Mara ecosystem, hundreds of thousands of wildebeest, zebra and gazelle must cross the Mara and Grumeti rivers. The Nile crocodiles waiting at these crossings have been documented taking animals as large as adult buffalo prey that can weigh 4 times the crocodile's own body weight. The crocodile strategy against large prey is to seize it by any available body part, drag it underwater to drown it, and then perform the death roll, a rapid rotation along the body's long axis that tears off manageable pieces of flesh through sheer force. This death roll is one of the most biomechanically effective dismemberment techniques of any predator. The saltwater crocodiles' prey in Australia and Southeast Asia includes wild pigs, deer, wallabies, water buffalo, and in some areas, domestic livestock. The saltwater crocodile's intelligence, described by Australian crocodile researchers as exceptional among reptiles, allows it to learn the patterns of prey and human activity over days and weeks before striking. Documented cases show saltwater crocodiles monitoring the times when livestock are brought to water or when fishermen follow particular routes and timing attacks accordingly. This behavioral flexibility, combined with its size, strength and bite force, makes the saltwater crocodile what many researchers consider the most dangerous reptile on Earth to any individual human who encounters one. The death roll is used by both species and is equally effective. Both can generate enough rotational force to tear limbs from large prey, which is among the most biomechanically devastating natural forces any land animal is likely to encounter. The relationship between humans and these two crocodiles represents one of the oldest and most consistently lethal predator-prey dynamics in human history. And the numbers, even carefully qualified, are sobering. The Croc-Attack database, which compiles verified crocodilian attack records globally, documented 5,614 attacks between 2015 and 2024, resulting in 2,873 fatalities, an average of approximately 287 documented deaths per year. Researchers emphasize that this figure almost certainly understates the true toll, because attacks in remote rural areas of sub-Saharan Africa and rural Southeast Asia frequently go unreported. Experts estimate actual global crocodile fatalities at approximately 1,000 per year when unreported incidents are included. Of this, the Nile crocodile is responsible for the majority. Documented estimates consistently attribute approximately 200 deaths per year to Nile crocodile attacks in Africa alone, with some analysis suggesting the true figure across the continent could reach 300 to 400 annually when unreported incidents are accounted for. This makes the Nile crocodile responsible for more human deaths than any other large predator in Africa. Lions, leopards, hyenas, and elephants combined kill fewer people per year than the Nile crocodile. The saltwater crocodile kills fewer humans per year in absolute numbers, primarily because its range, while vast, is less densely populated with rural communities dependent on rivers for daily survival. However, individual saltwater crocodile attacks have a higher probability of being fatal when they occur, because of the animal's greater average size, higher bite force, and aggressive temperament. In Australia's Northern Territory, where saltwater crocodile populations have recovered from 3,000 individuals in 1971 to an estimated 100,000 today, attacks on humans have increased proportionally, with the population recovery a direct consequence of one of the most successful large predator conservation stories in the world. The Ramree Island accounts of 1945, disputed by some historians in their precise details, but consistent with the known behavior of saltwater crocodiles under opportunistic feeding conditions, represent a possible extreme of this danger. Whether the crocodile death toll that night was in the dozens or the hundreds, the saltwater crocodile's documented capacity for mass opportunistic predation under the right conditions is not disputed. Both the Nile crocodile and the saltwater crocodile share a conservation history that is, by the standards of large predator conservation globally, a success story followed by a new set of complications that no one anticipated. Both species were hunted almost to extinction during the first half of the 20th century for the luxury leather trade. Crocodile skin became fashionable in handbags, shoes, and belts, and commercial hunters eliminated crocodiles from river system after river system across Africa and Asia. By the mid-20th century, populations had crashed to critical levels across much of both species ranges. Legal protection, beginning in the 1960s and 1970s, reversed the trajectory. The Nile crocodile is now listed as least concern on the IUCN Red List, with recovering populations across most of sub-Saharan Africa. Regulated commercial harvesting and farming, where crocodiles are raised in captivity for their leather rather than taken from the wild, has provided economic incentive for maintaining wild populations in some African countries. The saltwater crocodile's Australian recovery is remarkable, even by global standards. Protection in 1971 brought a population of approximately 3,000 individuals in the Northern Territory back to an estimated 100,000. Today, a 33-fold increase in half a century. This recovery has made Australia's saltwater crocodile population the largest in the world, and has converted what was once a critically depleted species into a genuine management challenge. The debate about whether to allow limited hunting of saltwater crocodiles in Australia has become one of the most contentious wildlife management debates in the country's history. Both species now face the newer threats of habitat loss through wetland drainage and modification, climate change altering the hydrology of the rivers and estuaries they depend on, and the encroachment of human settlement into habitats where crocodile populations are recovering. The ancient predators and the expanding human population are being pushed into closer and closer contact, and the result of that contact has been the same since long before our species existed. The Nile crocodile and the saltwater crocodile are not competing designs. They are the same design refined across geological time to near perfection, applied to two different corners of the world. The saltwater crocodile is larger on average, holds the captive record, has the stronger bite force, swims the open ocean, and inhabits the widest range. The Nile crocodile holds the wild size record, is more robustly built per unit of length, kills more humans per year than any other large predator on its continent, and has been shaping human civilization along Africa's rivers since before civilization began. The Ramree Island accounts remind us what the saltwater crocodile does when conditions align in its favor. The Mara River crossings remind us what the Nile crocodile does every year without exception. Neither animal is malicious. Neither animal learned to fear humans before we gave it reason to fear us, which we did, for most of the 20th century, extensively and nearly fatally. Both are now recovering. Both are increasingly sharing space with a human population that continues to grow into their habitat. And both are doing what they have done without modification for 200 million years, waiting in the water for whatever comes to the edge. Thank you for watching.